Hey, thank you for joining us online today. Jesus wants to do so much for you and through you, and we'd love to hear about how he's working in your life. So take a moment and send in your story to stories@rise-church.com. We hope that this message leaves you feeling uplifted and encouraged. Enjoy.
Last week we kicked off a brand new series that we're called Legacy. And the tagline for this series is that we want to learn to live a life beyond ourselves. Meaning this, that when our lives are over, when we take our last breath, we want to be able to say that we passed something down to the next generation, that we gave something to our kids and our grandkids or the people that were younger than us. We were able to pass something down, that we didn't just live a selfish life for ourselves, that we stepped back and said, God, do something greater in me than I could ever do in myself, and may it leave a legacy that impacts future lives to come. And this series is awesome, and I'm excited. And if you weren't here last week, I don't have time to get you caught up on the whole thing. I'm going to try a little bit, but go back to our website or our app and listen to the message. I think it'll encourage you. And honestly, this is a vision series for our church. And so if you're new to our church or you're kind of checking things out, especially our first-time guests, and maybe you're looking for a new church home, I would encourage you to come every week of this series because it's going to give you a very clear picture of who we are as a church. And at the end of this series, you're either going to be able to say, man, this is the church that I feel God's calling us to. We want to jump in and we want to get plugged in. Or you're going to say, I want nothing to do with this crazy church. I'm out of here. And we're okay with either. But I would encourage you to come. And we're going to give you a little bit of an inside look at who we are and who we believe God has called us to be as a church and why we do some of the things that we do. And last week, if you were here, you saw this picture up here on the screen. And I want to just walk through this briefly. And what we talked about was that we're going to kind of add some pillars every week of this series to give you a clearer picture of who we are as a church. But first and foremost, what you need to know about our church is this bottom line right here that says Jesus. And all that means is this, that the foundation of our church, the bedrock of our church, the cornerstone of everything that we do is built on Jesus and Him alone. Come on, somebody. If we try to build our church on anything other than Jesus, it'll crumble. If you try to build your life on anything other than Jesus, it'll crumble. Any relationship in your life, anything, it will fall apart. And then the roof right here is kind of like the umbrella of our church. It really just kind of everything that we do falls under this, that everything we do is all about leading you to love God with all your heart. That's our goal. All cards on the table, our goal for you, wherever you've been following Jesus for 40 years or 4 days, is for you to love God with all of your heart. And we want to be able to offer things that will help lead you to that. And so we talked about the outside columns on this picture. That these are kind of the bones and structure and support of our church. That first and foremost, we have to get Sundays right. What you're sitting in right now is we call it a worship experience. We have to get this right. If you don't like this, guess what? You ain't coming back. If this isn't good, if this doesn't encourage you, if this doesn't fill you up, you're not coming back. And so we try to make this awesome, and we spoke into it a little bit, and you're going to have to go back and listen to all of it. And then most importantly, as this here on Sundays, the same thing applies for our Rise kids, that we have to make that awesome. Because if you love it here, but your kids hate it, you're not coming back. But if they love it and you still hate it, you're coming back because they love it. And I said that we'll win you over slowly. We're pretty nice people. And it's important, and if I were to be honest and just kind of give you a clear picture, I really believe that these are the support structures of our church, that if these fall, then everything that we do will kind of collapse. So these are the bones of our church. But if you only come here on Sunday and you bring your kids, then you're going to walk around like a skeleton in our church. The middle structures are what I call the guts and the life of our church. And if you don't jump into all of what we do here, you're never going to experience all that God has for you and what He wants to do in you. And last week I rolled it out. We said groups. It's one of the most important things that we do at our church. And if you don't know what a group is, just think of like Sunday school that maybe you grew up with, or think about hanging out with a group of friends. This is what we do in our church. This is how we build relationships. This is how we keep a big church that's growing. We keep it small. We get you connected in a small group so that you can get to know 10 to 12 people in our church where you can receive encouragement and give encouragement. And so last week I talked about the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, that we're all going directions in our lives. And as followers of Jesus, where are we going? We're going after Jesus. So we have to surround ourselves with people that are also going after Jesus, because if they're not, they're going to pull us away from Jesus. And so you got to examine your life. You can't do life alone, but you got to do life with the right people. And we said, hey, listen, there's some blue tents out here. There's some of our team wearing red shirts. Go sign up to get connected in a group. And out of the 600 adults that are on average attending Rise Church on any given Sunday, with 200 kids also attending, they're trying to take over. Come on, some of y'all are helping out that mess, myself included. I'm sorry. Out of the 600 adults, over 300 of you signed up to be a part of a group. Come on. You don't know how much that thrills a pastor's heart. Come on. I preached my guts out. I said, go sign up, and over half of you did. That's awesome. Now, I don't know if you actually showed up to your group, but you signed up, all right? Good job. And I'm just going to assume the best about the other 300 of you, that when you walked out of the doors, you didn't see the gigantic blue tents. You were focused on Golden Corral or Captain D's, wherever you were going. And you missed the sign up. It's not too late for you either. We want you connected in a group because we believe it's important. And today, I want to talk about the next pillar, and it's what we call our dream team. Our dream team. These are the people in our church that volunteer and serve because they love you and they love this church and they love what God is doing here. For the first 4 years, we just called them volunteers. And that's a great name because they would volunteer, literally give of their time. They don't have to do this, but they want to. And I stole this from another church because I thought, man, volunteer is just not a strong enough word to explain what they really mean to our church. Because without our volunteers, we couldn't do any of this. I have one of the most amazing staffs on the planet. And they are incredible, and they oversee all of our volunteers. But without our volunteers, Rise Church could never be what it is. And I don't say it enough. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to every person that serves in our church. Come on, you're the dream team. Come on, you're the dream that makes all of this work. Come on, man, y'all are awesome. Thank you. And today, if I could just be real, I'm going to ask everybody to sign up to be a part of the dream team. That's what today is all about. Today is all about saying, God, you sent your son Jesus to be the greatest servant of all. We want to follow in his footsteps. So Jesus, how can you use me to serve others? Because it's important. Because if we only live our lives selfishly for ourselves and we don't ever see the needs of people around us, then we're just going to walk through this life and do our thing, and we're never going to impact people. But if we can step out of our shell and who we are and what we do, and we can open our eyes that people are hurting around us, then we will see God use our lives to impact them and point them to Jesus. It's so important. So from time to time, you're going to hear me say this from the stage, and you're going to get tired of hearing me say it. And if you keep coming to our church, you're going to hear us say it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. You get it? Take your next step and follow after Jesus. So some of you, you've taken your next step. You have come to church. You have not been in church in years, and your first step that you took was coming back to church. Come on, give yourselves a hand. That's awesome. But listen, if you just come in here and sit here on a Sunday morning, that's not enough because God has so much more for you. And so as a church, we want to see you take your next step, and we want to see you get connected in a group because we believe that encouragement happens in a group. And then we want to see you take your next step, and we want to see you get baptized. Come on, somebody, on September 17th. Let me talk about this just for a little bit. Here's who needs to get baptized in our church. We got some people in our church that you have come here, and God has completely changed you. You had no relationship with him, but now you have surrendered your life to him, and you're following after him, and he has done something brand new in you. You need to get baptized on September 17th. Others of you, you grew up and you got baptized when you were a kid because your parents told you that you needed to do it to get to heaven, and you don't really remember it, and it has no meaning for you, but now your faith is your own. It's your own. And you need to take your next step and say, this is what Jesus has done for me. I want to publicly declare it because I'm following after him. He has changed my life completely. I would be a mess without him, and so I want to go public with it. That's who needs to get baptized. You've been baptized already once before. You don't need to go again. But on September 17th, right here, we will put the tank, and we will baptize people one after another whose lives have been forever changed by Jesus. We have to take out a whole front row of chairs because it's in the splash zone. And it's incredible, and we rejoice. And if you've been thinking about it, you don't need to think about it. You just need to do it. Take your next step. Some of you need to take your next step and start trusting God with your finances, because everything you have is from him, and then let's just trust him with it. Some of you need to take your next step. Today is your day to say, God, I want to give my life to you. I need you in my life. I'm hopeless without you. I've been doing it on my own, and today is the day that I want to surrender everything. Jesus, come into my life. Forgive me of my sins. And then some of you that have been already following Jesus for a long time, you need to take your next step, and you need to start serving. Get on a dream team. Get connected, build some relationships with people, and let's start pointing other people to Jesus. And if you're sitting there and you're going, well, you just want me to serve because you want something from me. Man, I don't need nothing from y'all. I got over 150 people that I don't even have to beg them to do anything in our church. They do it. They do it because they love it. And if nobody signs up to serve in our church today, I'll hate myself for the sermon that I preached hard and nobody did anything. But when you show up next week, Rise Church will still be going strong. We don't want something from you. We want something for you. Because when man, listen to this. I know it's hard to clap because you're not serving yet. Listen. That's pretty good. I don't do anything he says, but that's pretty good. Listen, no. This is what I want for you. You are never more like Jesus than when you're serving. You're never more like him. When you're serving, man, you look like Jesus, because that's what he did everywhere he went. He served people. And when you serve people, you're growing in your faith, because now you're looking and going, all right, God, I don't really have anything to bring, but would you just use me? And then when he uses you, you go, oh, are you kidding me? You used me to impact this person's life? I love how one church says it. Their mission statement is this: see what God can do through you. Just watch. Just offer yourself up. Let him use you. And just see what he does through you to impact somebody else's life. And that's the goal of our church. As a pastor, I don't want to get up here and preach you something that fills your head with knowledge. You can go do that on your own. You want to know the Greek and the Aramaic and everything? Go do that on your own. I want to preach in such a way that the Holy Spirit stirs your heart to action. I want to preach in such a way that the Holy Spirit says, pursue me more. Run after me more. Fall in love with me more. Love me with your whole heart. Because when you love God with your whole heart, guess what you're going to do? Serve every stinking person around you. Because your heart is so connected to God. And when you see people, you see them how God sees them. And in Luke chapter 10, Jesus tells this story. And if you've never been in church, you've already heard this story. You already know how it goes. And if you've been in church, you probably have read this 1,000 times. Luke chapter 10, if you got a Bible, go ahead and turn there. If you don't have a Bible, the scriptures will be on this screen. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. Luke 10, starting in verse 25. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Now, the Bible says that this guy is an expert in the law, which means he is pretty smart, but the fact that he's trying to test Jesus means that he's really dumb. You don't test Jesus. That's just not smart. He knows everything. You ever thought about Jesus playing hide and seek when he grew up as a kid, and he's the finder, and everybody's like, Jesus, how'd you find me? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So he wants to test Jesus. And he says, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He asked this question to Jesus. And if you read throughout the Gospels and you come across anytime somebody asks Jesus a question, most of the time their motives are completely wrong. Every once in a while, their motives are pure. But when their motives are wrong and they're just trying to trick Jesus into saying something that gets him into more trouble, Jesus always does what I call a Jesus juke on them. Jesus, everybody say Jesus juke. And he won't answer their question because what he's basically saying is your question is so stupid, it's not even worthy of me validating it and answering it. So I'm going to answer back your question with a question. It's a Jesus juke. And so Jesus hits him back with this question. What is written in the law? He replied, how do you read it? And the man answered, well, Rise Church's mission statement says to love the Lord your God with all your heart. See, we stole it straight out of the Bible. And with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this, and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Another dumb question. And Jesus is about to do a mic drop moment on this guy, and he starts to tell the story of the Good Samaritan. If you got a Bible, come on, let's keep reading. We're going to start in verse 30. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. And this is all you need to know. From Jerusalem to Jericho was 17 miles. You wanted some knowledge? Here's some knowledge. 17 miles. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That doesn't help you at all, though, does it? 17 miles. Literally, when it says he was going down, it meant he was going down. It dropped 4,000 feet in elevation. And so this man would travel, and people knew all this. It's familiarity. So Jesus is telling this story. It's not a real story. He's telling it them because they would understand it. And they talk about this guy getting robbed and beat down. Do you know that they called that pathway the way of blood? Because people would often get beat up traveling that road. It says they stripped him of his clothes and beat him and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, and a Levite, all you need to know, more head knowledge, won't change your life. It's like a JV priest, okay? Like a gator priest or something like that, okay? There we go. It's not the last gator joke I have. When he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. Now, if you're the crowd, you're Jewish, and you're hearing Jesus tell this story, as soon as you hear about the man that got beat up and you hear Jesus say that a priest came, you go, oh, well, everything's going to be all right. Here comes the priest. And when Jesus says that the priest passed over to the other side, you think, oh, that's weird. Why would the priest do that? The priest should be helping him. But then when you hear when they heard about the Levite, they go, oh, surely the Levite, JV priest, maybe the priest had more important things, but the JV guy, he'll come along. And he walks by on the other side. Now, this is a pretty serious moment, so I like to always break a little tension with something fun. How many of you, if we were all completely honest, have ever ducked somebody in the grocery store? Come on, raise your hand, okay? Awesome. I've ducked some of y'all before, okay? True story. Not y'all, just the 9 o'clock people, okay? But you're in the grocery store and you're doing your thing and you're pushing the cart. How many of y'all still call it a buggy? Anybody still call it? I still call it a buggy. I don't know why. And so you're pushing your buggy and you see that person and you just, you know what I mean? Like your kids are like, what's wrong? And nothing. Because you're just trying to shop and you're just trying to just get in and get out and you don't really want to talk to anybody, and especially that person, because if you talk to them, they're going to keep bringing up the same thing they always bring up and what. If we were all honest in here, completely open, 100% honest, we would all say there have been moments in our lives where we had the opportunity to serve somebody. Not only did we walk by them and not serve them, we literally went to the other side. We went around. Because maybe they won't see me, and then I won't have to feel as guilty because I didn't see them. And we look at people, and let's just talk about people we see at the side of the road holding up signs. Maybe you've passed by somebody like that before. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not saying you have to give them money. I'm not saying you have to go and get them food. I'm saying listen to the Holy Spirit. Let him tell you what to do. But you see them, and immediately you start judging them. And you think, well, they probably made some really bad choices, and so that's why they're there in their lives. And so I don't need to help them, because if I help them, it's just going to enable. Or you see them and you go, I'm just too busy. I got more important things to do. I need to get to the next meeting or whatever. So you just move right on. And in the context of our church, some of you might say, well, this is just it's my one day off. You know, I just want to show up to church. I just want to sit, and I just want to leave, and I don't want to have to give anything else. I just want to, just encourage me, preacher. Come on, give me something good, and then I want to go. And can I just be honest with y'all just for a moment? You come back to this place week after week because you really do love it, right? You come back here week after week because you love it, okay? I know that. You wouldn't be here if you didn't love it. You love the preaching. Okay, no. Some of y'all like the music. Some of y'all, it's a little too loud. I get it. It is loud. It could be louder. It's not. They don't sing the song. I get it. Our worship team's awesome. Point you to Jesus. Do you know why you really love coming back to this place? And you might not even be able to pinpoint why. You love the presence of God that's here. It's the presence of God that's in this place. And can I tell you who helps usher that presence of God in this place? Our dream team. Our dream team. The presence of God is in this place because the presence of God lives in us. And our dream team volunteers who serve you every single week welcome you here with the cheesiest grins on their face. Welcome to Rise Church. We're so glad you're here. And some of them actually talk that loud right in your ear. We're glad to be here too. You love how welcoming this place is. Come on. You don't need to raise your hand. I don't need you to. I know. You hadn't stepped foot in a church before because you didn't think church could be this friendly. Because church to you was all about people judging you when you walked in. Just based of how you look. I'm talking tattoos on the arms, piercings, and different color hairs and stuff. What you wore. Not even what you did, what you just looked like. And people judged you. I don't want to be a part of that. But what you love about this place is that you feel welcomed in here. And that's our team, our volunteer dream team that welcomes you in and lets you know, hey, you're family here now. You're a part of the team. They're incredible. And this is what I know about when we see a need in somebody. We have two things that we can think about. We can think about the excuses as to why we can't do it, or we can think about how God might want to use us to make a difference in somebody else's life. How does God want to use you? Or does God want to use you, but you're too busy making excuses as to why he can't use you and doesn't want to use you, and you don't have time to be used by him? Let God use you. So we learned about the priest. We learned about the Levite. Now we're going to learn about the Samaritan. And at this point in the series, or the story, the Jewish people are probably curious and a little confused as to why the priest and the Levite aren't the hero of the story. And then Jesus says these words, but a Samaritan. And all you need to know about Samaritans and Jewish people is that they did not like each other. They hated each other. You think about the racial tensions that we see going on in our world today, rewind that a couple thousand years, and that's what's going on here. And Jesus says, but a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was. And when he saw him, he took pity on him. Now, I don't really like this translation because I don't like that word pity, because to pity somebody is kind of like, oh, like the Gators only had 11 rushing yards. Oh, you take pity. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that's so sad. So, oh. I got more, okay? Oh. I love how other translations use the word compassion. Because compassion's a word that when you see the need, you do something about it. It's a driver, it's a motivator. And Jesus one time said that he looked out at a group of people and his heart broke with compassion because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And so he said, I will be their shepherd and I'll lay my life down for the sheep. It says he went to him, this is the Good Samaritan, and he bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, which is a lot of money back in that day, and he gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? See, the expert in the law wanted to know, who is my neighbor? Jesus said, you're asking the wrong question. It's who should you be a neighbor to? And the answer is everyone. Everyone. And the expert in the law replied, well, I guess, Jesus juked him, and it's the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise. This is the prayer for my life and for our church, that we would love God with all of our heart, that we would have a burning passion and desire for the things of Jesus. You're sitting here today, what do I want from you? Man, I want you to have a hunger for God. If you don't, it's not too late. I don't care if you've been following Jesus for 40 years. We should all have a desire to know Jesus more. God, I want to love you. I want to pursue you because I tried everything else and it doesn't even compare to you. So we can just come in and sit here in church and it's like, hey, I'm here, I'm marking it off my list. No, we want to love you more, God. More today than we did yesterday. More tomorrow than we did today. God, I want to know you. Because when I love you, God, I'm going to love everybody in my area. When we love God Rise Church with all of our heart, we will impact the West Side like it's never seen before. Amen. And then we will impact a city. And the legacy that our church will leave is that we loved people because God loves people. It's my desire for you. I don't want you just to come and sit here on a Sunday morning. That does nothing for me. I want to see your life change. I want you to run up to me and say, Pastor, you got to hear about what God's doing in my life. He's changing me. Let me tell you how I serve this person. Let me tell you how God used me. I didn't think he could ever use me. Yeah, he can use you, and I will rejoice with you. There's 3 characters in this story that I want to look at in closing. First one is the man in need. The man in need. The man that was beat up and left for dead on the side of the road. If we were honest in here, there are plenty of people in our lives right now who are the man in need. Maybe it's friends, maybe it's family, or maybe it's none. Maybe it's complete strangers that you come across. There are people that are in need of you to help them. Second character I see in this story is the innkeeper. And the innkeeper, when I read this story, kind of represents the church a little bit. Because the innkeeper was able to set up systems to help this guy get better. And that's kind of what we have here at our church. You bring your friends here that are hurting. You invite them to come and tell them how great our church is. And it's only great because of Jesus. But we've got some systems set up that I think can help people. We have our Sunday morning worship experience where you can come in here and we can encourage you and send you out of here filled with some hope. We do counseling for people that are hurting. You got some addictions in your life? You got some stuff that you're going through? You got some relationship struggles? We'd love to sit down with you, help you any way that we can. We have small groups set up in place for you to get connected with other people in our church so that you can grow in your relationship with Jesus, where you can encourage and receive encouragement. And then the third one I see is the Good Samaritan. I really see the priest, the Levite, and the Good Samaritan, where 2 of the guys said, no, I don't have time to help somebody. But the third one said, no, I see the need and I want to do something about it. Leon, can you help me out? Leon's going to give me a chair. Y'all give it up for Leon right here. Thanks, bro. I didn't do this in the 9 because I like y'all better. If all we do is sit in this chair every Sunday, how can we impact people's lives? Now listen, I want to speak directly into somebody's life who is completely hurting right now. You don't need to serve anyone. You need to sit in the chair. You need to be encouraged. You need to be the one that's getting served right now. There's a season for that. But for everybody else in this place, if all we do is come in here on a Sunday, sing a couple songs, and we sit in this chair, and we don't do anything, how can you help somebody like this? They're gonna be like, why is that chair on your butt? Right? You can't help anybody. You can't serve anybody when you're carrying around this chair. There's a guy, I really like him a lot. His name's Jesus, who has a pretty rad chair. It's the throne of heaven. He saw the need. You. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sometimes when we read stories in the Bible, we can put ourselves in the hero's shoes, and we can think that we're the hero. So in a sense, all of us are the Good Samaritan, but at the same time, we're not. So can I just be real for you for just a moment? You're not the Good Samaritan. You're the guy that got beat up and left for half dead on the side of the road. And what beat you up was your sin. Jesus is the Good Samaritan. And he sat on a throne in heaven, and he looked down at you, and he said, I'm not staying here. And he got up off of his seat to come to earth, to live, to die for you. He came to serve you in the greatest way. I am preaching way better than you're responding right now. I will amen myself. Jesus, I will clap for your chair that you sit on, but I will rejoice even more that you got up off the chair, because if you didn't get up, I'm hopeless. If you didn't do that for me, I have no hope. He's the greatest servant of all. And he gave everything for you and for me. If you're in here and you're a follower of Jesus, we just want to be like him. So if you served people, then I'll serve people. And as your pastor, I want to just share this. I believe with all of my heart that if I can tell you the importance of serving in our church, that it will serve as a catalyst to get you to serve outside of this church. Because let's be real. Every Sunday morning we gather in here is one day out of the week. You got 6 other days to serve people outside of this place. But I want to lead you first and foremost to get you serving here. Because if I can get you serving here, then I can go, all right, now go out and serve everybody else that you come in contact with. If you're in this place today and you don't even know why you're here, somebody invited you, maybe you just showed up and felt like you were supposed to be at church today, and you have never entered into a relationship with Jesus, we created our church for you. We're here to serve you. We're here to point you to him. We're here to tell you about how great he is, how much he loves you. If you've never entered into a relationship with Jesus, come on. Today is a great day to say yes to him. And if God's speaking to your heart right now, and he's saying, this is it, this is what you've been missing, and he's calling you home, just in your heart right now, just say, God, I want to know you. Forgive me of my sins, God. I want you to come in and do something brand new in my life, and I want to follow after you the rest of my days.
Thank you for watching today. If you would like to continue the conversation, you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram. If our church has had an impact on you and you want to support what Jesus is doing here, you can do so by going to rise-church.com/give and select the giving option that works best for you. Thank you for joining us online, and have a great week.